show you a bit what open STEAM means. This is a research group based at the University of Cantabria that leads several European and national projects. One was the KICS, that we were working with Christoph from Finland, with Saul from Hungary, and with Tony from England, etc. We have some other projects now, which is the STEM for Youth project, which is the Horizon 2020. I'm going to talk today about the STEM for Youth project. The AMR STEAM project, which is a Spanish national project aiming to promote learning on children at risk of exclusion. And we have Mathematics Cellular, that is a project that aims to promote mathematics in educational role-playing games. I'm going to enter the web of the project. We have a repository here with the activities we develop. Activities we have the collaboration institutions here in Spain and
on the sun
we are working with participant schools and the projects we are running in progress, Mathematics Cellular, Primary STEAM,
you check there.
Okay. And here in the web you can find more information. We have a Twitter also, you can link, etc. Well, concerning the STEM for Youth project, this is, as I said, a Horizon 2020 project that promotes learning for students choosing STEM careers. It has several phases. We first aim to develop STEM activities, and we have a platform. You can access to the platform, and we have the different activities we develop. They are classified by different subjects. Here, for example, the engineering subjects. Each activity involves several disciplines, but for example, these activities, they have more content related to engineering, for example. We have here a hydraulic arm, floating nets, that I will talk about these activities. This is a guide for teachers and students to follow, and here we have several files about how to develop the activities. So that's the platforms we developed at the beginning. Another phase of the project was the implementation of the design activities. We implement these activities in 6 European countries: Spain, Italy, Greece, Slovenia, Czech Republic, and Poland. We were working with around 2,000 students in total from almost 60 schools in different countries. And we also involved around 120 teachers. Within this phase, we asked the students to develop several activities during almost 2 years. They were grouped in teams of 5 members, leading by at least one STEAM teacher, sometimes 2 or more teachers. And they developed the activities producing a writing document in English and a video, as we did also in the KICS projects years ago. I'm going to show you in the repository some of this. I'm going to show you the web of the STEM for Youth project. Is the STEM for Youth website. Here we have the participant schools, participant countries, the activities, and the activities developed. For example, if we go again to the engineering activities, if we click here, we have the PowerPoints and the videos of the activities. And the videos were developed in English, and the editing of the writing documents with the analytic part of the activities were also in English. And here we have students talking about an hydraulic arm, explaining how it functions, how it was constructed, etc. Well, if you enter to the website, you can see all these videos with the explanations by the students. Okay? Here we have another hydraulic arm from another school. We have a water rocket. We have a floating nest. And here we have all the engineering activities. After developed the activities, the students have to present them in several events. Here we have the school events. For example, they were presenting the activities in the Researchers' Night, European Researchers' Night. And we have here videos and photos of the students presenting in the European Researchers' Night. So the idea was having a team of students working for at least 2 years in different activities, and during these 2 years they were presenting the activities in conferences, seminars, school events, etc. So if you enter on this website, you can find all the presentations they did throughout these 2 years. Okay. Finally, the last phase of the project was to assess the influence or the benefits of the STEM project activities for several aims. Specific objectives of this assessment was to know whether do STEM for youth activities determine a student's future career choice, where the STEM for youth activities influence a student's motivation for learning, whether the STEM for youth activities significantly influence knowledge acquisition, and whether the STEM for youth activities significantly influence the development of key competence for lifelong learning. So I'm going to this. Well, here we have the methods. We undertook quantitative and qualitative study analysis through student attitudinal questionnaires, semi-structured interviews, and also teacher semi-structured interviews. We did 2 types of analysis, and here we have some of the results. Do STEM for youth activities determine a student's future career choice? We didn't find conclusive results. Here we found that some of the students who were participating in the project were already motivated to study science subjects, and others were not really interested, but they worked well in the project, and they were thinking of doing some other disciplines not related to science, and they were following this. So we didn't find here really conclusive results. Regarding the question, do STEM for youth activities influence students' motivation for learning? We found that yes, they do, but with some particularities. We found that factors such as teachers' motivation and interest were strongly affecting students' motivation for learning, regardless the teaching methodology. We have some of the teachers were motivating the students very much, so those students become also very interesting for this project and for the subject. Here we have one of the teachers saying, learning by experiments was very inspiring for my students. We have other teachers saying, working collaboratively was a very enriching experience for my students. another teacher was saying, working on real projects to obtain a solution was a very stimulating practice for my students. Other teachers were highlighting the hands-on activities, especially the ones working on the floating nest, because they have to develop different experiments, a prototype, and they were working a lot in workshops. And I can give you more information about this activity later also. And they also put the nest on a lake where they are actually testing whether the birds are going there to make their nest. Another question was, do STEM for youth activities significantly influence knowledge acquisition? We found that the answer is not. We didn't find any evidence for this. We can say that they don't influence knowledge acquisition significantly more than the activities in their regular lessons. However, the for youth activities help to integrate better than other activities knowledge from different school subjects. That's what we found. And also, different to, unlike the regular lessons, we found that students become more aware of the applicability of the concepts and procedures that they learn in the school, because they really have to apply them in the activities. And most of the time to create or to develop real tools or to solve real problems in real lives that involve several disciplines or several subjects of knowledge that they acquired in the schools. Another of the questions was, do STEM for youth activities significantly influence the development of key competence for lifelong learning? And we found that yes, they significantly impact the development of several of these key competences. I'm going to list and explain some of them. For example, the linguistic and oral communication. Students develop the ability to express and interpret concepts, thoughts, feelings, and opinions, both orally and in writing, because they were writing, they were creating and producing a document with all the analytic part of the activities, so that they were writing in English, and sometimes they were writing in their mother tongue for local events. And also they were producing videos where they have to explain orally the significant points of the activity, and they have to present it to different public, either in conferences, to their homologous, to teacher, also in video conferences, or in destination events like the European Researchers' Night that I was talking before. So we found that this competence developed was clearly developed during these 2 years of the project. The mathematical science and technology competence, yes, we believe that students develop sound mastery of numerically and understanding of the natural world, and the ability to apply the knowledge that they learn in the school to a specific context. Like, for example, like the floating nest, it's something. Most of the activities were needed for were real problems that we need to solve. So they were integrating science and mathematics, technology. We also believe that they developed the digital competence. The majority of the activities imply searching information on internet and using computers, working with different software, programming, etc. I'm going to show you one of these. For example, we have with Arduino, they were developing robots to avoid obstacles. This is a characteristic activity where they were really using programming, technology. We have others that you can find in our repository. Well, what other competences? The learning to learn and sense of initiative and entrepreneurship was another of the competencies we think they developed. Students produced several projects which were research projects. Students have to develop the ability to plan, to manage their own projects. For example, here we have a project where students undertook an investigation. This is about the DNA, about epigenetics, and these students were testing twin brothers to test whether they were more influenced. For example, twins were more influenced by the context or for the genetic, and they did a great job. We have here two brothers that they were talking, they were evaluating the voice, they were evaluating their attitudes, they were follow when you know the whole life when they were young to now. And well, these students found around 45, I think, twins, brothers that they were testing. So that was a research study. You will find more information here on the web. What else we found? We found that social and civic competence and cultural awareness was also developed. We have students participating in social activities, bringing the subjects to the general public on the streets, and were basically showing or creating activities with the general public in the streets, together with normal people on the streets. I know you cannot hear now the videos, they have music and they have talk, etc. But I think if you want to, because I don't want to go further, if you want to see more about this, you can go to the website. Just to finish, I'm going to talk about some of the constraints and handicaps that we find to implement the activities. One of them was the time constraints. Some of these activities, or the majority of these activities, I will say, they are no one-step problem solving, but they require a lot of time to be solved, several months, most of the activities, and they don't fit well in the regular educational system. So sometimes students and teachers were working outside of the regular classrooms in order to finish these complex activities. Resources. The schools, they didn't have the required materials to develop the activities most of the times, and we have to provide some materials to the schools because they were not able to find the material or didn't have money to buy. So this is another important constraint. And the assessment methods, as many of you may know, they were also problems because if you spend a lot of a lot of time developing this type of activities, and you have to follow the regular exams. It is difficult to prepare your students for the exams developing these activities. So we have to think if we are working in this context of developing these STEM projects in other ways of evaluating the students. But sometimes it's a problem because once they go to the university, they will be evaluated in the traditional way. So we have another issue here, another problem. And another issue we found is that many of the teachers we talked with and we tried to involve in the project, they were not, of course, they were subject specific, and they were not able, they were afraid to get involved in projects where they have to link or they have to deal with interdisciplinary activities. So it was really a challenge for them, and they have also to help the students to develop the activities in English. Several of the students and of the teachers didn't know English, so the students, they knew more English than the teachers, so it was also a problem for them. And well, that's all. Many thanks for this. Before I finish, I want to show you something that professor from here from Cantabria University, Thomas Recio, was pushing me to show that we have a GeoGebra conference in Sevilla on October this year. If some of you like to come, you are very welcome to come. And we have more activities like the one presenting here and others. That's all. Many thanks to everyone. If you have any question or you still want to start, because it's 9 o'clock, but you can. Many thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Very nice. So, any questions to Jose?
Hi, Jose.
Hello.
Thank you for the presentation. Concerning the point that you raised with the teachers training, how much assistance do they get from the organization in running these projects? Are there any procedures set up that assist them in running it, or is it up to them?
We continually help them we develop the training courses, and we advise them, we guide them in the whole process. Okay. We have STEM training to students and to teachers. We develop workshops to help them. Also, people here, researchers from the university and university professors, help them to develop some of the activities that may be more complex. Either we develop the workshops, or they come here to the university specifically to work in some of the activities. For example, if we are developing an activity about with a lot of computing and programming, we have university professor and researchers working in programming here at the faculty, and they help them to solve some of the problems. So yes, basically we guide them during the whole process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hola, José, y muchas gracias, pero continúa en inglés.
Thank you very much.
Did all the students in a school year group participate in the activities, or did the students self-select in extracurricular activities?
They were not selected. We invite the whole school we open this to, for example, I'm going to talk about the Cantabria, for example, here in Cantabria. We sent emails and we talked to the local government, and we send and they actually invite the student, the head of the teachers, to come to a general talk where we were explaining the project, and so it was like the kickoff of the project, and basically I think the teachers choose to participate in this in the project. Were more the teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Was not the students, because it's difficult. I mean, you need to have a teacher who wants to lead the students, and in every school, not every student participate. But we didn't select. We have students with high level in science or high achievement in subjects, and we have students with who are not really following the curriculum because they have a lot of difficulties, and they were also participating. So we have a big range of students regarding achievement, for example, in science.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Jose. And then okay, Christoph, you are next.
Hello everybody, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Unfortunately I could just sporadically follow Jose's talk, but I tried my best, and it's very good to hear about these many exciting projects, and as we had a lot of cooperation before with Jose, and we are also planning new projects. It's great to see this very vivid context in Spain, and also it's a great pleasure to share some minutes with you today. We have a limited time because of a little program change. So I recommend that I switch into some breaking news mode to share some information, some fresh information about some new publications which are all accessible online, and to where at least some of you already contributed in the room, and also which can be seeds of future projects. So, as you know, I'm now in Finland. Do you see my shared screen, this presentation?
Yes, we do.
Yes, so I'm in the University of Jyväskylä and working in the Finnish Institute for Educational Research. If you type innovative learning environments and Finnish Institute for Educational Research, you will find our homepage. You can see some of my colleagues also in this slide, and actually I will share this presentation with you so you can follow up the links if you want to know more about our activities. One of the freshest news to share you that we have education network concentrated on STEAM learning, and we try to connect teachers, teacher educators, researchers, and informal education practitioners in this network. It's also have a Finnish division, but we have also mailing groups and Facebook groups for global participation. And actually one of the Facebook group, I think many of you already remember, it's concentrated on GeoGebra and arts and STEAM learning. So I encourage you also to check out this education network, because you can get a lot of updates from many people around the world on very exciting activities and very useful methodological ideas and advices and project goals and so. And in connection with my topic, so creativity and innovation in learning in the key competence framework, there is a new publication. It's actually a teacher's handbook, which is also available for free online. And it was published in 5 languages. Hungarian is also included, and of course English, Italian, Romanian, and even Dutch. This is a result of an Erasmus project where we had the fortune to work together with several teachers from these countries who visited to Finland and also participated in a blended course. And actually the book itself is written mainly by the teachers, and also we had wonderful mentors in this process. One of them is also visiting you in Linz now and sitting maybe in the first row. His name is Jukka Sinnemäki, so he made, of course, a great impression and a great impact on the teachers who participated in this project. And actually, you can also get access to an online self-assessment tool, which can help you to profile your needs and also your strengths in bringing more creativity into the learning process. And these examples, what are given in the book by the teachers, participating teachers themselves, I think we hope that it will serve some encouragement to develop on various fields. These are including cooperation among teachers, that how teachers of different subjects can cooperate in everyday teaching situations, and also teachers of different grades. So, for example, primary school teachers and secondary school teachers and even kindergarten teachers can have also some cooperative approaches in some situations. And there is another big part of this book which is focusing on creative ways, creative ideas, creative approaches of teaching and learning. And there is a third big part which is concentrating on pedagogically conscious creation and use of different resources and materials. So we not only would like to encourage the variety of implementing different methods, but also making these methods more memorable and teaching occasions like experiences by using different tools and different materials, and also focusing that how do we use indoor and outdoor learning environments, that how the environment, even a very formal environment, how it can be turned into a creative environment or an environment which inspiring students and teachers both, and how these changes can be keys to increase engagement and motivation, not only of the learners, but also on the teachers level, and also how to involve the parents in innovative processes. And as you can see on this slide, there are many results what the teachers implemented in their school, and then they exchanged their experiences also as part of this project, and this whole journey is actually summarized in this book in a handbook format, so it's meant to be useful and giving encouragement. And there are a few other fresh publications in connection with STEAM and art and science based learning approaches. So one of them in the left came out in the end of the last year, and it includes an article based on cooperation with our South African colleagues on STEAM developments which took place in South Africa, and quite a large international team took part in this research process. Some of them are involved in the creation of the right side, this Why Science and Art Creativities Matter, reconfiguring STEAM for your future making education. So Pamela Bernard was a key person also in these publications, which I recommend you to check in this book. And one of them is dealing again with this South African developments in a quite broad context. And there's another article on how you can involve body movement and, for example, dancing or sports and bodily activities in mathematics learning in the STEAM framework. So I would like to recommend you these sources, as well as very fresh collections of relevant materials. And let me also call you to invite you to some upcoming events. So in April, so not so far from now, we have a symposium on creativity and innovation in education. So it's called Creativity for Sustainable Education. It will take place in our university in central Finland. You will be able to check out this link based on the presentation. As many of you already know, and I guess most of you met with Noadana Pikar from Jerusalem. He will host us in Academy in Jerusalem in June, so we are very much looking forward for the participation. And of course, I would like to invite you also to Finland again, to the Aalto University, where the next Bridges conference will take place. So last year was really unforgettable in Linz, and we had many new things introduced in the conference, including like a math and art fashion show, and also networks for STEAM educators. So we would like to bring forward this all actually together with the Linz people, and also together with you. So I hope to see you there in Helsinki in August. There will be several other slides in the presentation, which are also focusing on the key competence framework and on the situation and opportunities and challenges in Finland as well in connection with these questions. But I think it's wise if I finish now this short presentation, and maybe you have even more time for these sessions that are upcoming. And I recognize that you have extremely limited time, only 10 minutes for each presentation, so maybe you can extend a little bit of these talks that are coming up. And I'm really thankful for having this opportunity to invite you to check these new publications, and I hope to work with you together in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christoph. So, is there any questions to Christoph? I think, Christoph, you covered everything.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joel, and thank you for everyone who's there. And I really miss you guys, and I hope to see you soon. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so Christoph will be here in May. So
Yes, at the later. Okay.
latest.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Christoph. Bye bye.
I know that's really difficult to follow some 10-minute presentations. Thank you for the invitation to Jolt to be here. Some special effects anyway during my presentation, but never mind. Before my 10-minute speech, I tried to look for to you a really hot topic nowadays. As you know, that the PISA results, it's a really hot topic on education science and especially all over the society in the development world. First of all, my assumption that you know a lot about PISA results and PISA survey generally. In the beginning, I'd like to motivate you organizing a short brainstorming about PISA survey. According to my experience, on my students immediately can avoid eyes when I ask something. So could you put here, raise some points on PISA surveys, some concepts, words, or just a sentence, okay, briefly. I try to collect 5 elements, okay? Any idea? Don't avoid my eyes, please. Well-being, okay, from Yuka. That was the first.
There's often a misunderstanding between the intention of PISA and what is actually used, what the results are used for.
Exactly, so there are some misunderstanding points around PISA survey. Any other elements, please?
Different system, one measurement.
Okay, that's great. Okay, that's a dilemma, or much more than dilemma. Okay, thank you.
Selection of students.
Selection of students, okay, thank you so much.
Use of different languages.
Yeah, different languages, cultural backgrounds, and so on. Please.
The gender gap in mathematics.
Gender gap in mathematics, okay. Please.
Social inequality.
Social inequality, okay, that's great. That's more than 5. It's really good after the special dinner. I really appreciate your effort. Seriously, that when I was in Ontario, as you know, Ontario is really good at measurement and leadership. And one of the international conference, the head of the assessment center, Sandra Love, that's a fantastic sentence, the data are our friends. This is the motto behind my presentation, because data are not just because of data. Data itself, nothing. How can we handle the different data from PISA survey? That's an interesting point. That's the latest some piece of data that PISA 2018, that's a ranking. And 600,000 students, representing about 32 million 50-year-olds in the school, 79 participating countries and economies. So that's a really huge, all over known, the most important ranking all over the world, especially in Hungary. Some basic points. Just because of our memory is getting older and older, that the 50-year-olds' ability to use their reading, mathematics, science knowledge and skills to meet real-life challenges. Briefly, according to the concept of knowledge, this is the applied knowledge. So PISA is the first measurement, can measure applied knowledge using your knowledge in the other situation. So that's why, for instance, in this region, which is based on declarative knowledge, let's see the former international survey, IEA. We have lots of data from IEA as well, last decades, that the Hungarian students' position was better because of IEA measures declarative knowledge and not procedural knowledge. That's an important point. Second element, that the 7th round of the international assessment, since the program was launched in 2000, it's quite easy that the 20-year celebration of PISA survey 2020. So that means that we know some trends, processes, scenarios during these 2 decades. I never forget when I was in Berlin, the first PISA symposium, 2002, and the first keynote speaker was the Secretary of Education from Finland. And the task was the Secretary of Education from Finland that please show us the secret behind the Finnish results. And that was a beautiful starting sentence that, according to the Secretariat of Education, I never forget this sentence, sorry, experts, I don't know anything about the secret behind the Finnish results, but I am very happy that finally, firstly, we defeated Sweden. That was the brilliant starting speech, I think. That's the first PISA symposium. Immediately, because of my imagination is really strong, I can imagine if Hungary would win the first PISA survey, and the Hungarian Secretariat of Education started this speech, that would be 3-hour speech on the basis of the historical of education, on the evolution of the Hungarian secret behind the results. So the different mindset, absolutely, that was the starting point on this. And finally, that's also collected extensive data on students' attitudes and well-being. That's the third point, it's the most important one, because that's the new pillar of PISA survey, because the first time that was the excellence and equity. So excellence, equity, and now Jukka emphasized this point, his brilliant speech, that well-being, that's the horizontal view of education, as important as, for instance, finding the balance between equity and excellence. I never forget the red lamp on the basis of the PISA results in Berlin on Hungarian education, that no excellence and no equity. I was very sad in 2002. Now 2020, my level of sadness is the same. So no systematic solution, no systematic reactions, no systematic steps from several countries, but we know those steps from those countries who try to improve the data on the basis, improve not just data, but improve education system on the basis of the data. So use data as the motto, data are our friends. Scenario number 1. Let's check the US education policy from Obama and Trump and racing to the top or no child left behind, famous education policy. That's a very clear answer for PISA data. Very strong accountability, really hard accountability on the basis of the data. US experts want to put US education system to the top. As raised the worldwide education system, the world-class education system they try to put. They studied the first 10 on the PISA results, and after that creating the very strong accountability system which is data-driven and evidence-based. That's the two key concepts. It's very clear that on the basis of the standardized testing, from the age of 10, especially math and reading. That's the two pillars from PISA survey. And of course, the echo from the teacher's point of view, that's really important to know that there are lots of dilemmas, much more than dilemmas, that against this policy because of teaching to the tests. Okay. I am a literature and history teacher. What kind of numbers? Okay, just 2 minutes. Okay, thank you. So this is the first scenario. Teaching to the test means that if you think the position of STEAM education on the education arena, I think that testing the impact of STEAM education, it's an absolutely trap on this arena. It's a very clear point. So teaching to the test means this is not a holistic view of education without well-being, without excellence, and without equity. But you know that this is the very strong scenario. Second, that's the point what students are saying. It's quite simple. I am frustrated. I feel like what I am learning will not help me in life. It's very important feedbacks. Accept me to memorize it for a test without teaching me any real application. Never forget, real application was the aim of PISA result. Scenario number 2, that's the Finnish way, not just Finnish way, okay? For instance, Swedish and Danish way as well, so the Scandinavian way. Sorry, Mika. Scandinavian way, personalized learning, play, holistic approach, and well-being. STEAM education is related at this point. Finally, I don't want to avoid the Hungarian steps. There's a special scenario number 3 here. I did lots of interviews. Some key points I like to raise: surviving and forgetting. 2 basic competencies behind the last 20 years from Hungary. Surviving and forgetting. Without applied knowledge, without well-being, and without excellence. I am not pessimistic, but an optimistic person. So that's why I believe this one. This is the final quote to you, because there are several lecturers today. Desire and attitude. I think STEAM education can enormously help to you in order to focus on this point. Thank you very much.
Question and answer?
Question answer, okay. It's a very strict guy.
Sorry. Part of the Hungarian system.
So any questions?
It's more of a comment. I teach in a high achieving school, and we've turned it around now so that our students say to us, is it on the test? Because they have to get such high grades to get into our universities, and it's really sad.
Yes. It's a really narrow concept of education. I agree with your comment. Absolutely. Please.
You say you're optimistic. Do you see anything what could be done according to the Hungarian education system, thinking of the future?
Yes, the key factor is teaching and teachers' competencies, and I believe the bottom-up pilots, the bottom-up innovation-based pilots, which is based on, for instance, team education, focusing on much more interdisciplinarity and much more learning and learner-centered focus solutions. Some colleagues from here, from Page, the secondary school as well, and as I talk to each other, it's some examples, some best practices, so the bottom-up, the islands. The challenge is how can we network on these islands on the basis of the bottom-up innovation-based projects. So that's the opportunity for the Hungarian education system.
I also just want to comment on that. So you put on the slide personalized learning, and I think nowadays it's possible with the technology we have at our hands right now. It wasn't possible 20 years ago, but nowadays it is. We can develop tools, we can develop using machine learning, artificial intelligence, and I agree with you completely that we should really go into that direction, especially in STEAM education.
Yeah, that's the one side of the coin. The second one, every good teacher knows that if you know your children, it's much more effective to develop them, okay? That's the Asian point.
Yeah.
So hopefully you will bring back some of the STEAM education ideas in Hungary.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No pressure at all. Yes, thank you. In the very first beginning, I wanted to tell you a story how I came to this topic, to this statistics and more or less a sustainable development topic. It was 1 year ago when I had to accompany my son. He's 9 years old, then he was 8 years old, and he's really keen on all this nature sciences stuff and also in sustainable development, and I had to accompany him to this Friday for Future demonstration. They were during the school time, and so I had to accompany him because he's just 8 years old, and I had to take along some friends of him, and so we were 3 or 4 children and me going to this Friday for Future demonstration, and there was one speaker girl, maybe 16 years old, and she was just saying what is interesting about the third root of 478 when besides the world is burning. So and I thought she's right. What are we doing meaningful in mathematics education? What are we doing meaningful in statistics education to give them something what they can work with? And so therefore I thought, okay, let's do a program for statistics education combining sustainable development. So this was the very first beginning idea when this girl was speaking there.
You push down.
Down. Okay, thank you. So on the part of statistics education, we have some basic statistic ideas. It's the ideas of data, of center, of variability, of covariation and scatter plots that we have to address. Sorry, thank you.
What are you doing?
Yeah, getting a massage, thank you. And we wanted to address these statistical ideas. And well, this is the cycle of inquiry and visual analysis that Theodosia made. Theodosia was here last May, and I had the honor to work with her. And this statistical cycle is not just that students calculate anything out of the school book. They get some data and calculate anything, but they have to do some statistical work. So the statistical work is always starting with a question, with a statistical question, and then you're going into the data. You look for data. You maybe collect the data or look data up because there is a lot of data available in the internet. Then you do some visualizations and develop insights on these visualizations, on the pattern that you are looking for. And the last thing is acting in terms of that you have to decide whether you are satisfied with the answer of the question, or if you go backwards and look for another data, and and then you start again the cycle. Well, there are some other concepts that are important for my work. The one concept is the concept of intuitions. It was in the 1980s where there was a lot of work on intuitions. Ephraim Fishbein wrote a book on intuitions in sciences and mathematics. So it's not genuine in the statistics part, but in sciences and mathematics. And the main idea is that visualizations help students to understand patterns and to intuitively grasp the ideas there. Another thing is the role of context, that contextual data is really important in that way that students have the possibility to get a deeper feeling or a deeper insight into the data and to see the data as meaningful. Yes, and now this is the ESD part, the Education for Sustainable Development part. You may know the goals for Education for Sustainable Development. These are classified in some 17 goals, but they are not really connected to each other in this graphic. So maybe you know this one. ESD is defined as the intersection between, or the balance between, environment, economy, and society. But balancing is not enough, as we see now, because what's the real balance when the environment, when nature is burning and the environment is going down? So there are other models, and this model is the model we used for our project. It's the donut model. It was invented by Kate Raworth in 2012, and the donut it works like this. You have an inner circle and an outer circle. In the inner circle, there you have the social foundation. So you have the health, food, water, income, and everything like that in the inner circle. This inner circle has to be fulfilled so that that everything is working quite well. In the outer circle, there are environmental issues. So you have freshwater use, or climate change, land use change, or biodiversity and biodiversity loss. You have these ecological things outside, and there you shouldn't have too much of freshwater use, for example. Some researchers from the University of Leeds did the donut model like this. They looked for data that is where the thresholds and the limits are known, and they put it into the donut. And for example, this is Austria. There's Costa Rica, and you see in Austria we have all the social foundation. We have everything fulfilled. But also we do it on the we have this we exceed our natural resources. Costa Rica is doing that better, but as you may see here, the quality is not as far in Costa Rica, but they are doing quite well there. So what we, no, other way around. What our idea was, we wanted to give data to the students, and they should analyze the data visually, and then apply the donut model to rate sustainability of different countries, and therefore we used the platform Gapminder. You maybe know Gapminder. It was invented by Hans Rosling, and they provide loads of data for downloading and and they visualize it there on this Gapminder platform. And yes, we did it in lower secondary school. We went there, we gave data to the students, we gave them some technology, they visualized the data, they did the cycle of inquiry and visual analysis, and then this last point, this acting point, was that they rated the data in terms of how sustainable is this country performing in maybe ecological things. So or more concrete in CO2 emissions, for example. Yes, this is one of the products they did at the end. So there was this group working on China, and they said, okay, in China, one of the main patterns was that a lot of animals are dying, and so they had to do some infographics or some action motivation poster to get the data more livable. Well, and what we found out was they were working with data with a familiar context. There was a constant switching between the real world and the data world. So they just, how is it in the real world? How is it in the data? And there was a constant switching in the thinking processes. And the statistical investigative cycle is not a linear process, but they always went forth and back in the cycle just to look up, okay, how is it in the data? Then in the real world, they had to go back and search for other visualizations. So it was not real linear, this circle, but they went forth and back. Well, and we have this GeoGebra applet. May I have this computer? I just wanted to show you for 30 seconds what is happening here.
I can assist you.
No, it's working. So we have here this GeoGebra applet, where you can decide how many factors you want to analyze. And then you can put some sliders here. And you see now the social validation is fulfilled, but also ecology is over the boundaries. And then students rated the sustainable development of countries like this and got a donut graphic for each country afterwards. So thank you very much for your attention, and please some questions or input for my final talk.
Students learn from graphics. Did they?
Yes, so we are triggering these statistical ideas. When you see these bubble charts, there is an intuitive idea of correlation. So and they took this correlation and worked with this correlation. So they said if African, for example, in Africa, the poor countries, and they have little CO2 emissions, and they said, oh, when Africa would be rich, they would have much more CO2 emissions. So this was the idea of correlation that they used, therefore. And now I'm doing a project for higher secondary schools where we take these ideas and transform them into formative knowledge. So this was the starting point, intuitive starting point, and now we got this formalizing processes to do in the secondary school, in the higher secondary school. So no more questions. Maybe we can talk later on in the coffee break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He also looks cool with the microphone.
Oh dear. Okay, 10 minutes. Yeah, this is a fascinating thing that I've... how do you do this? Come across. I was asked to look at a European Union call, notwithstanding Brexit, but hey-ho, never mind. And the project call was Girls for STEM. And in the project, it started off saying factors impeding girls' interest and involvement in STEM include low self-perceptions, low confidence with girls, low perception of STEM professions, and gender stereotyping. So, does this sound familiar or not? I don't know. Some people are nodding, some people go, I don't know. The kids I deal with, we don't select. We seem to get about, yesterday, 48% girls, 52% boys. Sounds about 50-50 to me. So is this all hokum? Well, you know, I've been looking at my big new best friend's presentation when he says 90% of stuff that goes on underneath the kid's head, you know, all that stuff that's going on underneath. And here, I did some literature review, and the greatest one was Gerso, who says girls have lower self-efficacy ratings in STEM, but listen very carefully, because if this is right, it's shocking. Despite outperforming boys across school subjects, they still think they're worse than boys, despite performing better. Do you get that? That's spooky. That's spooky. What might be going on? And also, even in one of the most gender-neutral countries in the world, which I think is Finland, actually, and despite the evidence of their own marks, girls still seem to be succumbing to the stereotype that girls aren't as capable as boys. But again, is this true? And anyway, Gerso is really quite persuasive in saying, in any case, we need female STEM role models to up the belief and the confidence of girls. Anyway, if you put them together, it says to me it's all about perception. And the challenge is, how do we enhance perception of self-perception and STEAM, be it girls or boys? And what about the use of role models? How important are role models, whether they be the teachers or indeed the parents? So, the good news in this project, which defines the title, is that we've already done a lot of this kind of stuff. And I had a great pleasure of working on the KICS project, which you might have heard of, Kids Inspiring Kids for STEAM. Wonderful projects in 4 countries where that's exactly what kids who loved STEAM acted as role models, inspiring other kids. But in our KICS project, in our KICS project, it was all about inclusivity. So we didn't bother whether it was boys or girls. We didn't bother about whether it was kids with high or low ability. It was all about the opposite. It was about inclusivity. So you can find out much more about that KICS project. However, I'm going to summarize part of it here, because enhancing perception, how do we do that? How do we do that, and how do we measure it? Well, it's all about offering a perception experience which enhances kids' previous expectations, or indeed teachers' expectations. And I'm going to show you a great example which occurred yesterday with Eva. But let me tell you three things. Enhancing perception, I did a doctorate called Expectation Shock. And it was all about you should not automatically strive to offer users or customers or students a top-of-the-range wow experience, so impressive that it's divorced from everyday experience. Rather, you should identify a perception experience which exceeds low expectation. And if it works, you can have a profound effect. And this is the exciting thing. I was going to give you a great example here. But yesterday, I had a wonderful example of an expectation shock. How cool is that? And this guy's thinking, he's finally gone crazy. What's the big deal about this thing? What's the big deal about this thing, Eva? Let me tell you what you told me yesterday in the presentation. Eva was talking and teaching to 200 teachers, trying to get them to buy into her activity with 3D printing. And it wasn't going so well, was it, Eva? It wasn't going